Hello, and welcome to The Kosh. I'm your host, Timber Smith, and The Kosh is a podcast that spotlights people who've had an association with the Kosh or the surrounding Fox Cities area. Kosh listeners, how are we doing this morning? It is a fabulous morning. It is Oktoberfest in Appleton morning, which I've never gone, but from what I hear, it's something to behold. I hear there's going to be 200,000 extra people there. I was like, 200,000? Like, that's more than a stadium or several football stadiums, right? So I was like, okay. So, I was telling my wife, Oktoberfest is this weekend. And she was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. I was like, from what I hear, like 200,000 people pack into Appleton. And she goes, I want to go. And I was like, what? I was like, that's the odd. Bruh. I didn't know what to do with that, actually. So, but I might be coming back to tell an episode about Timber and the wife's experience at Oktoberfest. Okay. Now, Kosh listeners, you already know what I'm going to say. I don't know how I keep getting these amazing, amazing guests. And what makes this extra special, because I want to make sure that I say that, I'm going to say this a couple of times during this episode. This is the 100th episode of The Kosh. So, I'm super excited about this guest because I think their energy matches the worthiness of being that guest on the 100th episode of The Kosh. And thank you so much for going on this journey with me. When we started this, we did not think we were going to ever make it to 100 episodes. We were going to be lucky if we made it to 5 or 10, but we're at 100 episodes. So thank you for going on the journey with me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for spending this time. Thank you for getting to know our neighbors, these people in our region, these amazing, amazing people. So it's a big deal. But I got sidetracked. Now, without further ado, this week's guest is Susan Garcia Franz. What's up,
Hello.
Susan?
Hey. I'm honored to be here, especially on the 100th episode. And I know no pressure, right?
All the pressure. Look, I'm not even going front. Yes, pressure.
Okay. All right. I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
You're ready for it?
I am.
Fabulous. Hey, well, how are you doing this morning first?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to take on Saturday. Lots to do. Like you said, Oktoberfest, other tasks that need to take place. So I'm ready for the weekend.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that for sure. Are you going into this thing called Oktoberfest?
I am. I am part of organization Casa Hispana, and we have some food stands there that I definitely am going to be a part of. So I'm excited about the food. I'm excited about also, there's a little craft area that I might divert to early on. And then it's going to have some beer, and I got to decide what is going to be my drink of choice today. Cause I want to make it good.
You got to make it just, there is so much truth in that, because the fun you're going to have has a lot to do with the decision, the road you decide to go down as far as the drink.
Absolutely. And the food, because, sometimes I'm in for the chowder some days, some years. It's like beeline it for that wonderful clam chowder. And then some years it's like, just go to the tiger paw and be done. Go for the dessert, just have it and then be done. So every year is a little different.
Oh, okay. We got feelings about this. Yeah, I can tell you are experienced.
Yeah, I've been there. I'm going to be honest. When it gets to the 200,000 person mark, it's a lot for me. It's a lot. Maybe it's a lot for a lot of people. So I like it early, a little earlier on, when there's not so many. But I'm going to be honest. I can handle myself in the 200,000. It's just more. It's a lot.
All right. Yeah. There you go. Okay. So we're going to jump in. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Susan, can you please tell us a little something about yourself and what's your connection to the Kosh or the surrounding Fox Cities area?
Yeah. Well, I can probably tell you a lot about myself, but
Let's
I'll
go.
I'll try to make it brief. So I'm was born in the Fox Valley area. I was born in Neenah, lived there good portion of my life, and then definitely moved away and have had a lot of life experiences, and then moved back. So it's,
You're a boomerang.
yeah, came back to the Fox Crossing area and to put down my stakes there, and have been there for 20 years. Who knew? So in terms of my connection to this area and whatnot is that I went to school I graduated from Neenah High School, but then I went to UW Oshkosh.
Oh, you're a Titan.
Yeah, I'm a Titan. I'm a Titan times two. So I went there, I'm going to date myself here. I went there back in the late 80s, early 90s, the first time around, and it was a great experience. It was a different campus than it is now. Mm-hmm. I always wished that campus extended to the river. I thought that was what a travesty that we don't get the river, and it does now. Now I'm kind of bummed. I'd kind of like to go back as an undergrad. That would have been a good time being right there. But anyway, it's a great campus. I had a great time. I've really been involved in a lot of groups at UW Oshkosh and have continued that throughout my life. So I'm the person who's invested in the community and improvement. And so really my UW Oshkosh years were spent a lot. I really focused in on environmental issues on the campus. This was before recycling was just really getting its bearings at UW Oshkosh. Now it's a Earth Summit campus. I'm like, what happened? Where were you when I was there? So we were just getting started. But this had a lot of transitions as UW Oshkosh, and then went to live in Madison for a while. Had to have that experience, and I mean, again, different community, different life experiences there. But even though it's a larger city, I felt like there were small communities within that. And then maybe went international. Actually, my husband's from Ecuador. Went to Ecuador for a while. Lived in Ecuador for a while.
How was that?
That was great. I mean, the thing about Ecuador is the only, really bad thing, and this is, some people wouldn't see this as bad, is that it's right on the equator, right? So it's... Okay. The sun comes up at 6 a.m. The sun goes down at 6 p.m.
Oh, I'm about that life.
Are you? Okay.
Well, I guess 12 hours of sun seems fabulous.
Okay, you're right. You're right. That's that was when there was sun. You're right. Those were good days.
Yeah.
Those were good days.
But I mean, that means there's 12 hours of dark, right?
True. And then the other piece is that you didn't have 4 seasons, right? So when you grew up in 4 seasons, or what do we say, 2.5 here? I don't know, whatever we say.
What do you mean? Wisconsin. I feel like we've got about 7.
or 12, right? Yeah, you're right. We have micro seasons, right?
We do have micro seasons.
Until it's the mega. We have mega and micro seasons, right? Okay,
yeah,
true. You're right. So, but when you don't have that, you're like, oh, I wish I had a little snow for a few weeks, and then you go, oh, I wish I had some falling leaves. You just miss those things that you grew up in, are like part of your DNA.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to tell you though, transportation system there is it's just amazing. And so I miss that riding the bus. The bus went everywhere. I didn't have to worry about it. And the other thing I miss is just that the fresh food. It was fresh markets all year round.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you miss that here. So.
Yeah, we can't necessarily get fresh market year round. That just sounds like a really great experience, though.
It was.
What made you leave that?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
what happened? No,
you are already in like the sunny happiness. I don't know.
Yeah, I think. I have a small family, and so I think it was being. My husband has a large family. I have a small family. I think being far from home was like I really wanted to be share more with my parents, right. And we were about to have kids, and so it was like what brought me home really was also finances. Like I was working there. The wages are different there, right. Not the same, and so came back to earn more money to finish a home down there,
right.
and. Never left.
Never left.
never went back. So much to the chagrin, probably of my husband, because I think he thought we would for sure be living back there. So I think life hands you what life hands you. Kids, and then you start school. The whole thing. It just, this area draws me in. I'm a what do you want to say? What do you say? A Northeasterner? I don't know. Northeastern Wisconsinner? I don't know. Like, this is my jam here.
You're a Wisconsinite.
Yeah, I'm Wisconsinite through and through.
Yeah, that's just, it is what it is.
It is. Yeah.
All right.
So
I get that, jam.
yeah.
All right. So you brought up kids. We got some kids?
Yeah. I'm an empty nester now, but yeah, 21 and 22. And so like not fully launched, but mostly launched.
Semi-launched.
Semi-launched.
Launched-ish.
I don't know.
I like that term.
Yeah, launched-ish. I mean, I don't know if they're ever fully launched. Like, I guess at some point when they're fully off we'll say the parental payroll, then maybe I'll say they're fully launched, like, or they're sending money home, right? Something like that. But
that's a thing.
I don't know.
I need to get to that part of empty nesting.
I don't know if that's a thing, but maybe.
Hey, if you out there listening, daughter,
yeah, right.
maybe you're hitting that part of life to send some money home.
Someday, or at least the gifts get a little more lavish, maybe as they
I will say this.
get down the road.
She has been hooking me up the last couple of years. Like my daughter's good.
Okay.
That's daddy's
nice.
girl.
That's nice. Yeah. That's nice. I mean, really, probably the main thing as parents is like making sure they had what they need to be successful, and
Yes.
The core at the core. So
Okay. Are they both in school right now?
actually my daughter's working full time as a cosmetologist,
okay.
a barber, if you will. She's at a men's salon in Madison. And then my son is finishing in his final year and a half at UW Stevens Point.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was trying to see if there were Titans.
My son was a Titan for a couple of years, and then he transferred.
He was like, I'm out of here.
He's out of here.
Yeah.
Too close to home.
Yeah. And see, I went through that phase with my daughter. I was
Right?
like, yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
too
she ended
close.
up being a Titan.
Oh, but
She's
it's a
Titan.
good school. It's a good school.
She had a great experience.
Yeah.
Okay. That was kind of fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot, right?
No.
I'm a lot.
No, not at all.
So my work, and my work brings me back here. So I'm working for the county. I work for Winnebago County.
Okay.
So, and I'm working public health. And so really that in my core, it's in my core now too, that public health. I didn't arrive the traditional way because the traditional way wasn't there when I graduated. Right. So it took me a while to get to public health, but I really enjoy what I do.
All I know is I see you everywhere.
I try to be involved, and I'm that person that sometimes has a hard time saying no.
I would not guess that. I am smirking.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress.
No, we need those involved people, and I can always tell from the spaces you're in, you are like heavily involved into the community, and you care, and you know your stuff, and there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I try to definitely, and especially in the last few years, really hone in on what can I make the most difference on, and be in that space and really make a difference. So I hope that it's people see me as not like busybody, but more just like wanting to make things better.
Make a difference.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. You ready to jump into the first segment?
Absolutely.
Okay. The first segment is called What in the World is Going On With? This is where you start with the statement, what in the world? And then you tell us what's on your mind.
Yeah. I think like a question like that is like, I could go like really light on this, right? Like, what in the world is someone doing this? But I think really my question is, what in the world is going on where the world seems to have tipped upside down, but people don't see it. But not everyone sees it. Not everyone's impacted by it, right?
Break that down.
So I think I see in the work I do, I see things like a lot of between homelessness or people being precariously housed, We call it underhousing, of where there'll be 3 or 4 families living together, temporary people not being able to find housing. I see things with transportation of where people can't afford a car, they can't, and then the bus doesn't always run all the times they need it to get to the things they need to get to. And then I see like childcare, where I have coworkers that just have babies that are like, they're like, I don't know how I'm going to stay working when it's hard to get childcare. It's hard to afford childcare. It's hard to it's hard all the pieces, but not everyone sees it, right? It's not like it's front and center on the front page of the Post-Crescent every day of these are happening to people, and people are really struggling to essentially get their basic needs met and or be in a place where they can thrive. So
I think you're right. I think there's so much going on, and everybody's in there, or not everyone, I shouldn't generalize, but we fall into this thing of being in our silos. And so we're only looking at the things that are relevant in our lives. But these things that you mentioned are relevant overall.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's that question of how do you get the word out to other people that this is a crisis for a lot of people. A lot of energy is spent in that space of, think of if you don't have housing, that's a lot of energy to try to keep yourself, safe, not rained upon, just all the things, right? And carrying your life's possessions with you wherever you go. That's a rough road to be able to be healthy in, or even be able to thrive as a person in. Yeah. So I think people don't see it though.
And community wise, seeing unhoused people is just that's hard.
Absolutely.
And so even as a community, we would want to, out of just what I want to say is being good humans, I think we would want to see, we don't want to see unhoused people.
Absolutely.
I would rather see you safe somewhere, some kind of way, by all means. And I don't really care what your background is or the why you are unhoused. At the end of the day, there's plenty for everyone. There's enough shelter opportunities that we should be able to figure this out.
We should. I say that all the time. We are a well-resourced community, even though it's not everyone has them, right? Not everyone has the same resources,
right?
But we are well-resourced in general. So really getting to some of the solutions, there's solutions out there, and it just takes a while.
And I just don't necessarily, those kinds of things come with a lot of stigma and judgment, and we don't typically know the background story on individuals.
Absolutely.
And them being unhoused, and we make a lot of assumptions. It's always they need to just get a job, and it's never
right.
It's never that. It's usually not that simple.
It's not that simple.
And that's usually some of those people actually have jobs.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. It's surprising
to say that.
Yeah, people's experience, and so, and I just want to say, I do have had an experience with my daughter. This is another advocacy area where you would see me as in dyslexia. I'm part of a statewide group that has worked to, talk about dyslexia, do education around it and awareness. And so we have people, and if you look at the statistics, we have a lot of people that can't read and write, or they're at third grade or below levels.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're leaving our schools at those levels, and then we expect them to be successful in said job, whatever, and can't fill out an application, right? And so we need to all come together. And I'm not here to place blame. I think it's a system that has made a lot of attempts, but when the attempts aren't working anymore, you have to turn around and try something different.
Yes.
So
and let me just throw out there, we do have an episode with a dyslexia expert.
Awesome.
With Dr. Robinson, Dr. Sean Robinson,
yes.
Dr.
Awesome.
Dyslexia dude.
Yes.
And
how wonderful.
So, in this region, we have resources,
oh my
but
goodness.
are we using
Absolutely.
their resources.
And I think, people are coming around to it's time for some change. And so I think the state, I don't know if you heard, there was a reading bill that was passed at the state level. So there is change coming, and there's resources coming with it for those changes, retraining, curriculums, things like that. So I'm excited. It's going to take a while, though. It's not overnight, right? Just because we did something, it's not going to happen tomorrow. But I truly believe in that improvement will improve lives overall and have less of the issues after the fact.
All right. My what in the world is going on with is what in the world is going on with our new assistant superintendent, Dr. Sam Coleman, not being able to cash his paycheck at Associated Bank.
Oh my goodness. Oh goodness. I mean, you needed that that camera right there catching that, you know what I mean, to bring that to the world, to go, I think I've experienced it in my life. I'm going to say, like, I probably, at one point even was that person that did a judgment on someone. I remember being down in Illinois, and we were staying in Bolingbrook, Illinois. And I don't know if there's a big hospital by there. And, a gentleman walked in late at night to like check in, like last minute, whatnot. And like, I probably did an assumption of what in the world are you coming so late at night? Like last minute, checking into a hotel. He was Black and he was a doctor. And like, I didn't assume doctor, right? You've seen these episodes, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't assume doctor. Mm-hmm. I went a different way. Like, what are you coming late at night for, kind of thing. And I had to check my bias. It was like a moment of like, you ever assume, ever assume. And you think we're past, you think, oh, we've all had trainings around that. We should.
Yeah. Well, if you really read the article and the fact that like they didn't give explanation and they wouldn't explain what the policy was, and then you find out later on that they didn't follow their policy.
Right.
I have problems.
Absolutely.
Well, here's my thing. Okay. I get it. And let's just take race out of it for a quick second,
okay.
even though race is prevalent.
Okay.
I'm not saying
right.
it's not.
You're right.
So then you go to just what is the procedure? What's the policy? Now, they didn't explain anything. They just said they weren't going to do it. Right? Now, from what I understand, this is where the school banks. So there's some type of policy, like if you take the check from the place where this institution actually does its banking, you should be able to cash it.
Right.
And if they were worried about it over a certain amount, it seems like other things should have happened. Like, hey, let's call the school district, let's call their HR and verify the employment or whatever it is. But they didn't do any of that. They just didn't do it.
Right.
They just stopped.
Right.
They just stopped. And then, so my other complaint about all of this is because as somebody who actually is in this profession of diversity, equity, and inclusion,
right?
I'm gonna say y'all need to go talk to somebody and bring in some trainers. And if you don't know who to talk to, holler at me, and I got friends. Now I'm gonna back out of that, and what I'm gonna go to next is when I read the article did not properly address Dr. Sam Coleman because they never said he was Dr. Sam Coleman. The way they wrote that article is they wrote it like he was just random dude, particularly random Black dude, right?
Yeah.
And so that adds so much more context. I mean, they did mention he was the newest assistant superintendent.
Right.
One of them.
Right.
Right. But at the end of the day, you need to put that other piece in there because that changes the dynamic of the entire story. Because then if you go and read and look, I'm going to tell you who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the dude that goes and reads the comments.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I go read the comments.
You read all the comments.
I read some of the comments. And I'm going to say, you know what? And I won't say this very often, but some people need to be ashamed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you know what? and I'm gonna go down one more road.
Yeah.
Is, because people are like, you're playing the race card, blah blah blah. And let me just explain some things about the so-called playing of the race card, as people like to term it. When nothing else makes sense for what has happened, that tends to be the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, if you can't explain your actions, like why you treated this individual this way, why you did not follow your own company policy and procedures for how to cash a check in this situation, if you can't even come up with answers on why it happened or why these decisions were made, then that's going to be a go-to. Yeah, now, here, I'm the first one to say often what I try to tell people is, particularly to understand what's going through the mind of a person of color when these kinds of things happen, is this: when we can't find the answer for why something's happening, it's serious. Like, you have to question, is this why? So like, if I'm in a store and my cashier treats me really poorly, right? I don't go to race. I go to, they probably had a tough day. Mm-hmm. They probably had a hard day. They probably kicked the dog. They spilled the milk on the way out the door. I go to, like, I try to always keep in mind, like, that there's all of these other factors that can come into play and that don't go to, they're doing this to me because of my identity. Right. Mm-hmm. I try to keep in mind that we're human. We have bad days. We do these things. Right. And I think a lot of us do try to do that. But when other things happen, like procedurally trying to cash your paycheck and you're not letting me do it, all I'm going to ask for all those people who want to call race card, do me a favor and make it make sense.
Right.
Make it make sense. Right. If you can't make it make sense, then guess where we're going?
Right.
Because that does make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bias makes sense.
It does.
In that situation.
Right.
Bias is human. Own bias.
Own bias.
The first person to say that you're playing the race card again, you are probably one of the most biased people there are.
Yeah. And we all have
biases.
Implicit bias, right? And we have to unpack that and really it's not, even when you even on the training, we'll just say come in and do a training, but then you have to like really unpack it for yourself and then decide my actions will, that I can say I was wrong, and then I can change my actions moving forward.
Absolutely.
Right?
We all have bias moments.
Right.
And we got to be real about those. And we just sometimes just have to say, hey, you know what? I was screwing that up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Let me get back to treating you with dignity and respect like a human.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's my thing with that. And then I got one more thing about this.
Yeah.
Is we fought and fight consistently to get talent here. Amazing talent. And if we can get diverse talent here, that's one more leg up. Oshkosh has been putting forth effort. And when I say Oshkosh, I mean the greater city of Oshkosh, all levels. What our businesses have, I feel like our city has been making an effort, like to recognize who Oshkosh is becoming and the diversifying of Oshkosh and to great talent here. I know our school district has very intentionally, I feel, put effort towards getting great talent of color here.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And then we got this community out here screwing that up.
Right.
Because if you ain't been here but a couple months, and this is one of the first things that happen, is you can't even cash the check you earned. And other people are going to say all sorts of stuff, but here's the thing. When you move, and this is a person moving to the region, you don't always open your bank right away.
Right.
You don't get your direct deposit set up all the way right away all the time.
Oh, right.
All these things are the reasons people are stop it. Stop it.
It happens. We know it happens.
And we understand the fact that you ain't never left.
Right.
You don't know none of these things.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But other people do move into the region, and moving is a process.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I want to say I have heard of a lot of these situations where people come in and then have left because they
2 to 3 years.
Yeah, it's like that's just, I can imagine it's stressful of like always feeling like not belonging. And I think we talk a lot about in our work about belonging and how important that is. And what I want to say is that the general community, even though there's different folks working on that diversity, more work probably needs to be done in the existing institutions, systems, all the places to be more welcoming, right? Like we've seen this with other issues, like downtown Appleton, City of Appleton did the LGBTQ plus kind of welcoming after something happened. I think something happened. It was more maybe a national thing happened, but people put up signs in their businesses to say we are welcoming. I think things like that. I mean, just where you have this recognition of, people like we've talked about just, a few minutes ago about implicit bias. We know it's out there, and then we can't pretend like it's magically just going to go away. And so there's work that has to be done. And it's not just one person's work. It's all of our work all the time to be more welcoming, have people feel like they belong, whether they were born here or came in.
Facts. Okay. I'm going to get off my soapbox.
Okay. I used to carry around a soapbox, literally. Like I used to sell soap to help women pay for healthcare for a long time. So people always are like, "Oh, just there's never a soapbox again." I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I literally had a soapbox."
Susan, you wild. That's all I'm going to say. Susan, you wild. Okay, so we're going to jump into the next segment. The next segment is word association. This is where I say a word and you tell me what comes to your mind. The first word we always start with here at the Kosh is the unifying word. The word that brings us all together. The word that makes you smile when you usually say it, like tacos. This word is food.
Yeah. Delicious. I like yummy food. I mean, I'm not a foodie per se, but I'm going to tell you, when I have good food, I tell everyone about it. Like, oh gosh, have you had this? It is so yummy. And you have to not to promote like Starbucks per se, but when they get their Chestnut Praline Latte for the season, I'm like, oh, how many times can I get there? I mean, that flavor combination right there is like, it's just really, for me, I look forward to it every year, and I'm sad when it goes. So I'm that person that'll go frequently, much more frequently than I normally would go. Also, but I like looking for local places that whatever their specialty is. If you haven't been to Mara's Brazilian Cuisine,
not yet. I need to get there.
Oh my. Like, just her food, you can taste the love in it, and it's yummy. And so, like, whenever I run into things like that, I'm like, hey, you got to go there. It's like, this is the best food. Have you had this food? So I talk a lot about food, but I think food is the unifier. Food is kind of the belonging again. Like, it's a way we can, even though we all might have all different foods, food can be where we come together, and we come together on food because people can appreciate food as that base, right?
Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to now look at you very differently because of Chestnut Praline lattes. Susan, that was the most bougiest thing I've ever heard. I don't even know what that is. That's so bougie.
No, you're right. I went. I could have said, have you had the hibiscus tea at, so and so? I went like Chestnut Praline. I wouldn't, I like to support local, so I'm not going to go there most of the time. But I'm going to tell you, like, you know,
Look,
I also,
don't apologize now because I know you're bougie now.
you know, I like to vacillate between like like thinking maybe I could have lived that life and been okay, like better homes and gardens. Like my house has never looked better homes and gardens, but I appreciate people who do that because I think like that's so awesome, but it's never worked in my life because we don't buy sets of things or, you know, things that match. Yeah. For the most part, it's like we're rummage sale and we've bought a few new things, not many. But
I know that life.
Okay. You know that life. I mean,
yeah.
And I don't, it's not, sometimes it's like, it's because we want things to be used, right? Not be wasteful, but
shoot, I just like a good rummage sale.
Right? You find something awesome at a rummage sale and it's like, it makes your day.
And
right?
You tell people.
Exactly, right?
Brag about it.
Exactly.
This cost me 32 cents.
Exactly. Exactly. Bruh. Yeah. So I want to say, like, I sometimes go into that world, not very often though. So I do like I do like a good TJ Maxx shopping. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I know some people don't. I feel like I'm living the high life there without paying the price. You know?
I think they have that on the tag. That might be their tagline.
Exactly. Exactly. And I know I'm not alone. I have found an affinity group that also feels the same way.
I'm actually a member.
Okay. See?
All right. Cocktail or beer?
Oh, you know, right now in my life, it's cocktail, and it's a very specific cocktail that someone introduced me to. It's the Whiskey Press is my cocktail of choice because it's like not as sweet, cloyingly sweet as like a rum and Coke, but it's got enough of, you know, all the flavors, all the things that I need. And I'd prefer it with olives because that's a little salty to the sweet, right? Mm-hmm. But I want to say my parents grew up drinking, I don't know, Manhattans, old fashions, I don't know, something like that. I never was trained on that or got used to that or like really liked that. So it's taken me a long time to get to cocktail, really. But I'm going to tell you, beer. I know this kind of sounds bougie coming out of this microphone is. Stella Artois is my beer of choice. And I want to tell you, I tell people that it's medicinal because, okay, let me tell you about the medicinal part of Stella. I can have multiple Stellas and then I drink water, maybe have a little ibuprofen at night. And then in the morning, I am not hungover whatsoever. But like when I deviate from that formulary, you know, it doesn't go so well. So I just want to, I don't know. They must be putting something in it. I don't know. The seeming in Belgium, they figured something out there, I think. And so I'm not trying to say we haven't figured things out in Northeast Wisconsin with beer. I don't know. Cause I probably haven't had it yet, but that's where I go.
I am giggling because let me say, most of us, and maybe it's just me, I'm not going to speak for all of us here, I didn't know there was a second name to Stella. I just thought it was Stella. And the fact that you said the second name, which I'm not going to try to say, but you said it actually with the appropriate enunciation and accents, I don't know how to feel about you now. So somewhere between Chestnut pralines, lattes, and Stella Bouillard, Susan, you're telling Wisconsin who you are.
I know. I you know, every once in a while, it's like it's the one things I feel like I could have been carried on the Oprah favorite things tradition. Like I actually thought about having a show like that. Like obviously I wouldn't have been at the level she had been at, but I was like, I like to share my favorite thing. When I find something I like to share it, and I like to share with a lot of people and tell them why. And so I was like, I should really have that favorite things show and give people the chance to try the things I like.
You know what I'm going to say is because we are on our 100th episode and we are going to start doing some transformational changes is what I'm going to say to the Kosh is maybe Susan should have a segment. And it can be Susan's favorite things.
There we go.
Would you like a segment,
There we
Susan?
go. I would love to share my favorite things.
So maybe we just need to do that occasionally where Susan just comes in and shares her favorite bougie things.
Absolutely. And hopefully they're not always bougie, but I get it. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, it feels like I've gone to a next level where I didn't say Pabst Blue Ribbon, which would have maybe seen a little more like, with the.
Oh, hey, look, I'm just figuring I'm just going to tease you a little bit, but no, if this is who you are, this is who we want to know.
Well, it's because the beer came in a chalice, really, that got me hooked. Not really. I'm kidding. I do have multiple Stella chalices though in my collection, but just because you get a free one sometimes when you buy the beer or whatever it was. Anyway, I have multiple chalices, but really that beer, they put it on a special tap. So it has a certain level of, what do you call it? Effervescence when they serve it. I don't know. You're right. It's very bougie that way. And that doesn't always happen, but I want to say like, it's a yummy beer for me. That's all I have to say.
Facts. I love this. Okay. Concert.
My most recent one was Train. I've been to probably more concerts in this year than I've been for like 10 years. I don't know about you, but I'm old school where I stood in line outside Sears, Ticketmaster back in the day for Summerfest, and I got my now this is gonna like you're gonna again put me in a category here for my Depeche Mode tickets. And got fifth row center, right? Tickets, like standing in line, and now this whole electronic buying online, certain time, you got to be ready, like and the price of tickets, wow, like a mortgage payment kind of, or car payment for tickets, like has me spinning, reeling off of the, like, what is going on here? What has happened? Because I'm going to local. So that's why I love the Leech and the concert series there. I feel like it's affordable and wonderful, and you still feel like you are seen, like you can see. It's not these stadium things, I don't get it. I don't get paying in a stadium being the person looks like a fly or an ant, and you pay $300 to see the ant, and you're really looking at the screen. I'm like, well, you could be at home looking at a screen, and it'd be even better. And you'd be comfy, and you can have whatever beverage and food you want, right? Like, I get the experience. I don't get this universe in which it's off the chain, kind of expensive and inaccessible to a lot of people.
Yes.
I give Taylor Swift some props for coming with a movie now to make another $1 billion off of that tour. Because maybe I'm going to go to the movie theater because I can have the reclining chair. I can watch it. I can be no judgment that I'm watching Taylor Swift
in a reclining chair.
In a reclining chair. So I give props to that. I wish my favorite band would, put something and release it as a movie, and I go see it. That might just be easier at this point. But I'm telling you, because I'm sad that music is inaccessible to people because of price. And yes. I love these local. I love Mile of Music.
Yes. My God, that's so good.
Right? Like,
yes.
Like a venue where you don't have to pay anything, and you decide where you're going, and you're not stuck anywhere.
Right.
But I do like music. I love live music. So if I can figure that balance of, cost and or experience and all the pieces of that, I'm gonna go to more concerts in my life.
I like that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite concert you've been to?
Oh my gosh, my favorite. Well, fifth row Depeche Mode, right? When you're like, I don't even remember, 16, 18. I can't remember what year, how old I was. But anyway, I was somewhere in that range. I was like, you're right there. And you remember the cameras back then? They still, even though you were that close, they still look like ants on your camera. Like I have the photos I took, and they still look small. And now if I had the camera I have on my phone, man, I could see up their nostrils, right? I mean, man, I wish I had those photos. Like I wish I had the camera I had then. But anyway,
you probably had a Polaroid.
Probably did. I can't remember what kind of camera would I have carried to Summerfest and been carried around, right, with me. But yeah. So, but anyway, that was the pinnacle of that's fifth row center, my favorite band kind of thing. So I'm going to say that, but I'm going to tell you that, I'm going to tell you One Republic at Summerfest, when I got free tickets, that was musically an amazing concert. They like the lead singer, I don't know his name even, I'm going to be honest, but did some amazing music at that particular concert.
Okay. Streaming.
Like streaming. What am I streaming? Oh, what am I streaming? Oh.
Well, it's streaming. It's word association.
See, okay,
what do you think of?
Now I get to be embarrassed, right? Mm-hmm. Like, okay, so I'm gonna be honest that my de-stress moments are coming home after work and going home and watching baking championships in my basement.
Bruh.
So like I'm between two shows right now. I'm watching the Halloween baking championship because of course Halloween season now, right? I like to watch the seasonal ones and then I'll find another one after that that's not seasonal and I'll just keep watching different ones. One, because it's like, I don't have to think, right? I don't have to think. It's not a world problem. It's like, I just get to watch people like do their thing and sometimes do it well and sometimes not do it well. Facts. And I like it either way. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've had that moment. Didn't put the right whatever in it and there it's destroyed and you're at the end of the day. Or you've had something amazing where I watch and like, oh gosh, I got to make that, right?
Do you bake?
I do. I bring some good treats to work. I brought some scones recently that people really were clamoring over. So I'm really do like making scones. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, I'm just telling you this is a setup question, which basically is my way of saying bring Timber baked goods.
Right? No, I probably should bring you some. Because I have thought about starting a bakery. Just so you know, I've gone down that road.
Oh, okay.
Because there's not enough good pie in the area, really, buying good pie.
Okay.
I need more outlets for pie.
More pie.
Yeah, more pie in this world. And so I've looked at it and I wanted to start more breakfast places because especially in my area.
I'm with you on the breakfast place.
Right? Mm-hmm. And good breakfast,
like a old school George Webbish kind of establishment.
Yeah. So I've looked at it. I've put actually together the business plan. However, I'm going to be honest, what stopped me then, and luckily it stopped me before COVID because that would have been a hot mess, right? To start something up and then COVID. But I think it was the pure cost of ingredients are good ingredients, right? Okay. I love to support local folks. But at the end of the day, by the time I pay for that and labor and the place, and all the things, right? Yeah. And then I offer it out. People they don't want to pay a lot for breakfast. I get it. It's cheap to make at home. I get it. You don't want to pay a lot for it. So I think I would struggle with that, making a profit.
I don't know. For the right breakfast environment, I drop some loot because there's just because there's something. Breakfast is the start of that day, and you know what? It's simple. How often is someone gonna screw up breakfast?
Right. Right.
If my eggs and my bacon and my pancake is right, and my coffee is strong, and I got me a nice paper and good company.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm I think people will pay for it.
Okay.
I actually do think people don't mind because in a breakfast thing, a good portion of it's about setting.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to feel like
you're right
because it starts your day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. In Madison, we had some when I lived in Madison, amazing places that made some amazing, yummy food, and so you didn't mind paying that. You're right.
That's just my thought process.
No, I'm with you. I'm probably gonna revisit it at some point. Just think it through in my head. Can this work? Because I've been encouraged. You should do that because where I live in Fox Crossing just doesn't have enough food outlets, and there's surrounding area businesses that would probably frequent them if they were there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think if it's the right breakfast place, the other thing people would do is you come in there and you do business.
Yeah.
So I would like a breakfast place. I do a ton of my work in coffee shops, right?
Yeah,
But if there
absolutely.
was a breakfast place, I'd do it there.
Yeah, right?
Because if I could just snag me a pancake and some eggs and bacon,
Yeah,
I would do that.
I get it.
Here's the thing. My coffee is costing about the price of a breakfast
Right.
You know why?
Yes.
Because I'm drinking
Yes.
bougie coffee.
Oh, see, it comes out now.
Oh, see?
It comes out now.
You thought I was judging you. I was really saying...
You're going to try it now.
No, I'm just saying we are actually of the same tribe.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotcha. No, I get it. I get it. And, it's been said of like, that's where people, well, that's maybe where the profit margin is, right? In any of these things is with the coffee, right? So we get it. We get it. Just like, okay. So I would make sure you had that bougie coffee you could drink at my place for sure. So yeah. Okay. All right. I gotcha.
That's right. Shop local.
Yeah. Love it. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I need a little bit more of a budget. Someone needs to float me if I'm going to fully shop local. I love going to boutiques. I love going in local places. For food wise, it's not, it's the same price as other places. So it's not for food. Not a big deal, but I think when I start to get into shopping, it's like, yikes! Like that's where it's like, oh, I see it, and then I go, I don't know, is TJ Maxx gonna have that price? I stop myself, and that's horrible. Like I want to support that local business, and I get it. Having gone through the business piece, I get it. Of all the costs to run a business, I get it. And I want to support them, but it takes, if it's only a one thing here and there, it's not enough. I have to make several trips. And so I'm telling you that I want to support local more. I really do. I think there's some great people. And I want to say that local people are asked all the time to support us as community.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Right?
For all the things.
For all the things.
Sponsor this. Can you do this? Can you donate this?
So I want to support more. And I even said it this week. I'm like, that's it. Gosh, I got to go to a few more coffee shops a few more times during the week. Like I just need to do that. But, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I promised my life coach that I wasn't going to have so much sugar this week. And that's just going to lead to more me wanting to consume more sugar. And I talk myself out of it. But I do want to say it's a treat though, right? It's not like a daily thing. So my conviction is shop local and support local and I would love to be local someday, that business that you're going to support. So I say, yeah, absolutely. But also realize that people have budgets and sometimes it's just not always feasible.
Not always.
Yeah.
But I do it. And you know what? I don't mind spending, do I consistently do it? Not for everything. But do we do it? Yes, absolutely. Because, I've spent a little bit more money here. But I've also just gotten, I feel like I'm at an age where I just buy less things. So I don't mind spending a little bit more here.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Diversity.
Yeah. I want to say it brings a smile to my face whenever I'm part of an event or I do an event, like we had Latino Fest recently.
Yes, you did.
And it brings such a smile to my face when people, comment and just say how wonderful it was and how nice it was to see all the people and all the different celebrations of culture and, and the food options. Well, people wanted more, but people always want more, but that people got an opportunity to try different things and just talking with other people. And I'm always surprised. There's so many people. I speak fluent Spanish, and I think there's so many people that learn a language or learn about a culture and they want to experience it more. And there's just not enough opportunity to do that here. And so they do the best they can, but I think they want more. And so whenever we can create those opportunities, and then also it's back to that belonging of the people that do come in that are from the diverse cultures, feeling that they are a part of, that we appreciate the diversity and the different perspectives they bring in and the richness they bring to the community. and support them in the places they're at too. So it's like kind of that mix of just highlighting it all. So I'm a big proponent of let's have more of it, and so we can all like really live full, rich lives together as a whole, and not other people, that they're from another place, or they're, whatever the othering is that happens, because it happens a lot and I hear it a lot. Let's not do that. Let's say it's an opportunity to bring in more people so we can all experience it together better.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. Resources.
Yeah, resources are tough. I mean, I deal with resources not every day, well, maybe somewhat every day, in terms of trying to connect more people to resources. And what I want to say is it's a job to, if you're someone who's not well resourced, it's a job to get resources. Like, it takes time. Every process is different. There's a lot of different barriers. There's a lot of things you need to be able to get some resources. And then it takes a lot of effort to keep those resources and try to get away from needing those resources. And I think there's just not a general understanding in the community of what that effort takes, especially if you have children and you're a family and you're like, even single moms, especially, right? Imagine being a single mom and you needed resources. So you got to take part of your day when you can, right, to get the resources, or you have to bring children with you or whatever it is. And then at the end of the day, there's never a reprieve, right? There's never a day you get of like, okay, you're a single mom. So you're a single mom, until maybe you find a resource that would help with childcare or something like that. But like it's a constant struggle and when it's not, it's still a struggle because you wait for the other shoe to drop kind of piece, right? Like maybe you get out of those situations of needing resources, but then something happens to a child or you or something or another family member, and suddenly you're back in the situation again. And I think
you need more resources.
You need more resources.
Bruh.
And I think that people don't, if you've not been in that situation, you don't know the effort it takes.
Oh, the system is tough.
Yeah.
Because the system is set up to try to make sure that it is, to me, as challenging as it can be to be able to use resources.
Right.
But depending on what the resources is.
Yeah.
When we use that, it's a really broad word, but these kinds of, I don't know what we should call them, government sanctioned.
Yeah.
Government managed.
Yes. Well, and the, the continuum. I recently got my master's in public administration, so we may have studied all the policies around resource division or resource distribution, if you will, and how that changed in the 80s, where there were resources coming in that really did support a level of supporting others, right. And that changed. How that got done after the 80s and how difficult that has been, where now suddenly, I think about this all the time with nonprofits. Nonprofits spend a lot of time asking for money.
They do?
They spend a lot of time asking for money. So guess what? When it comes down to programmatic work, that it's part of what they do, and yet it's probably not a bulk of what they do at some points, because they got to raise money to be able to do it. And so it becomes this like, how have we helped or saved or really allowed for people to continue on when we set up those kinds of circumstances? It seems like it's a setting up to fail situation. It's waiting for that, like, just all that amount of effort is not put towards bettering lives.
Yeah. So the time frame you're talking about, I believe that is the Reaganomics time frame.
that would have been it.
Where, the idea was we're going to take the money that is being perceived wasted by those who are financially challenged and give it to the wealthier, because they'll trickle the money down.
Yeah. Yep. Yep, that would have been the time I was referencing. So without saying that out loud.
When you say it out loud, it feels some kind of way, right? Where
it does. Yeah. It does.
You know what? That math ain't mathin'.
Yeah, that math ain't mathin'. And I think that I was young in that time frame, young and we'll just put the word naive there. Like it was when I could first vote at 18. Now, I didn't know what I was voting for really in 18, or when I was 18. So I want to say obviously my politics have evolved I like to know who I'm voting for and what they stand for before I vote. But I want to say that our system doesn't not make that easy either. And our system, like just the system piece of it, to think that switching how things were funded really just put a lot of pressure on a lot of people over time and really started that othering, if you will. It started that those people, it really solidified that in people's minds of those people. And I can't believe how much fraud that people report, and what really ends up being fraud at the end of the day is usually between 1% and 5% of cases.
Yes. And I believe also that during that time frame, the term welfare queen was coined.
Yeah.
So there was a whole attack.
Right.
There was a whole attack and system in place to really slant the perspective of these programs and the good they were doing for the people that needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because once again, we should just take their money and give it to the wealthy, and then they can trickle it down.
Yeah.
Once again, the math ain't mathing.
Yeah, the math ain't mathing. And also just, that whole change in all those changes that happened, the change in W-2.
Right. I don't know if everybody knows that is all the stuff that was happening during that time, but
there's a lot. And I can tell you that it was my post-college years living in Madison, as you can imagine. Got involved in a few organizations that really were diving a little deeper into some of those situations and what was happening to our working class. We went down to the Caterpillar plant in Peoria, Illinois. If you haven't ever been there, I'd make the trip. And this was, how many, we'll say it was 25 years ago or something like that. I don't have to say how many years ago that was, but there was this ginormous Caterpillar plant, and this monstrosity in Peoria, and the surrounding houses were maybe one size bigger than our tiny houses in Oshkosh. They were 700 square foot homes that it was surrounded by. And you had this extremely large multinational corporation right in the middle of it. It's that kind of, when you see those, you think to yourself, wait a minute, you're making money hand over fist, and the community's not seeing it. Those kind of pieces. And I think we struggle in these days, to be honest, when we talk about my woes with transportation, sometimes in transit, and wanting to do more expansions. And we kind of say, employers, can you contribute a bit to this because you want your employees to be able to get to your job? They're some of them do it as a pilot, and then they're we don't really want to do this we don't really fund this anymore. And the reality is, though, the infrastructure that you are given as a company, as a corporation, comes from somewhere, and it's the people in the community. So if you're not paying in that as part of the community, we can't make it. It's hard to make it go, or hard to make it continue to go. And the reliance is then on somewhere else, and that's usually the federal government. Yeah, how people say we're not going to take federal money. It becomes this, whatever it is, it becomes a struggle between funders and funding, and versus the bettering the community as a whole. And it's really a struggle. And I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, and that's no pun intended. But I want to say, like, we really, like, we have an opportunity to be better here. Like we talked earlier in the segment of being well-resourced, we have an opportunity to be better. And I think, everyone has to just dig in a little bit harder.
I'm going to have to agree. Facts.
Bruh.
Okay. We are right. We wrapped that up.
Wow. Amazing.
Okay. We are on to the next segment. Next segment is called The Kosh Hidden Gems. This is your opportunity to tell the Kosh listeners about a hidden gem. And the hidden gem doesn't necessarily have to be hidden. It could be a gem that everybody knows about, and then maybe there's something in their programming that we don't know about, or maybe it's something we just don't really know about. What is your hidden gem?
That's so funny. When I saw that maybe that might be a question that you asked me, I thought, Timber, if I let everyone know what the hidden gem is, it's not gonna be hidden anymore, and then everyone's gonna want it.
Bruh.
And then it's gonna be harder for me to get it. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. Like, no, I want everyone to go to, whatever, local businesses. So, no, I think now, right, I'm going to be honest. It's a hidden gem that someone reminded me about recently that I'm like, oh yeah, I got to go to that a little bit more often is, at Planet Perk, they added like a little cat cafe in the back, and I haven't gone to it yet, and I love cats, and I thought I gotta go to that more often. What is my problem? Like, I just have to be, I think it's a hidden gem. I think more people, you can adopt the cats there. That's going to be the problem is I definitely could go crazy cat lady, no, I mean, and I say that in a nice way. I mean, I love crazy cat lady when people love on cats a lot and want a lot of them. I get it. I get that. I mean, I would say that unconditional love, but you don't always get the one that you get sometimes you get that next cat that's like, yeah, I'm here and you see me, but I don't really want to pay attention to you. Like, you live separately. But I think, you know what I mean? Like cats can go either way. Dogs can go either way too, right? They either love on you or sometimes maybe be indifferent. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I've never seen an indifferent dog.
Yeah, what am I talking about? I've never had a dog. What am I saying?
Wait, the dog is like, hey, can I get a belly rub and some treats, and I will hang out at your feet for the next 8 hours.
Right?
I don't know. That's my
know,
experience with dogs.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's probably not very many indifferent dogs.
But cats?
Yeah, right.
It's probably a shot in the dark with you.
Yeah, right. What you're gonna get.
You're
gonna get. Yeah. So I want to say I probably want to bring a few home after that. However, just getting in the pets probably is enough. It's the calming. They have studies on this, the calming nature of being around pets. So I'm going to say that's the hidden gem, and you all should go check it out.
I'm going to agree. I just saw some stuff on social media about that. Planet Perk is an amazing business. That's an amazing owner.
Yeah.
He's also a vet, and we should be supporting Planet Perk. He just does great things in the community. That is the reason we should shop local.
Absolutely.
There we go.
We were in school the first time I went. We were in a class together and got to know one another. So
awesome.
Yeah, we've known each other for years.
Okay.
So awesome.
He's a great
guy.
All right. We are, big shout out to Planet Perk. I'm just going to throw that out there.
There you go. Okay.
Next segment is, what does the Kosh need? This is your opportunity to tell us what's needed.
Yeah. And I was like, well, do you need stuff in your office? What are you asking me here? What are you asking me, Timber? You got some nice decorations here, so I think you're good. You're set. But you're asking me more of the greater community.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, as like I said, as a person who works daily on some of these needs out in the community, I mean, really, the housing piece is it's just so devastating in terms of it's the base for which people need to be able to, to live and thrive and eventually, work on, thriving beyond that. So what I want to say is this community, we need to figure out a lot more ways to turn around some housing that can be at different levels that people need it. So I think people would be surprised that there are people with disabilities that are ending up in homeless shelters. Mm-hmm. And it's because there's no space at the inn, if you will. And that's, again, it's just, there's literally a place called the Bethlehem Inn, but like, there's just literally no place for people to go and to find, especially think about if you're on disability, you know, the amount of income coming in and what you can spend. And so we need to make more investments. And when I say we, the we is at a lot of levels. The we isn't just government, although government's probably going to be the main source, but it's we the greater communities. So
I don't know if it should be government being the main source. I feel like what we need is like some of what I have learned from being in conversations, and you know, I get the great opportunity to learn a lot of things and be in spaces that I probably never would normally have privy to, right? Mm-hmm. And the one thing I've kind of learned, and this stuck with me, is the one thing they're not making anymore is affordable housing. Mm-hmm. So what we need is for individuals, nonprofits, organizations, whoever, to buy up the existing affordable housing and keep it affordable.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
the one thing that you really can't do, from what I understand, and I'm not an expert, is you can't build new affordable housing because the cost of building automatically just makes it
right.
I don't want to say unaffordable, but
right.
But does it comes with a cost, right?
Absolutely.
And so like you're not building new things where it's going to be affordable housing,
right?
And so the key is to find what exists, maintain it, and then find those entities that can keep it affordable.
Right.
And yeah. I don't know if that's the message, because the other thing we have is we have other entities coming from outside of our region coming up and buying these properties and then making them into luxury properties and things, and transforming what it was, and then we're losing affordable housing.
Right. Absolutely. I think again, understanding how it all works, that the system is set up a little more challenging when it comes to affordable housing, right? There's when we talk about affordable housing and we get these larger units in our area, most of the time they've qualified for a Section 42 subsidy. So that's, not everyone understands it, but it's like kind of comes from where it's a certain amount of money that are given to developers that promise to have affordable units in their development, and they have to keep them at least for 15, sometimes 30, depending on where the 30 years, depending on where the funding came from. And then a bank like Associated Bank buys that credit and then gives them the money up front, and then they get the money over 10 years. The bank gets the money over 10 years. So the more and more that we can have of those in our area and make those available, the better off we are. We didn't keep pace with that when we should have, right? We didn't keep that, and that's Oshkosh, that's Appleton, that's, you know, all of our surrounding community. We didn't keep pace with that. And so now we're trying to play catch up in a time where it's difficult and costly. So I agree with you also on those individual units. There are things called land trusts where you can keep housing and become affordable and also give people equity at the end of the day. It's just that's, again, that whole organization takes time and effort and people that are in it and going to stay in it. And like, I think it can happen. There might be people in our community that are already starting that process. That would be great. I agree with you wholeheartedly, because I do live in the place I've lived is a condo, and we've lived in it for 20 years. I want to tell you, it was the affordable place in town. And the richness of that, of where people who might not have normal opportunities to buy housing because it's so unaffordable, end up in there and having those opportunities it's just amazing to see. So can we have more of that? I wish, I hope, but like you said, it's going to be a little bit of a tug of war.
My question is it still affordable?
Only if you get those subsidies, right? Like this is where we come back to government and we say, government, we can't make money having affordable units. Can you help us? And like it makes sense. Those programs are amazing, and they need more funding. And then at the federal level, we get to like, we're going to cut HUD and some of that funding. And you think to yourself, like, because there was so much housing, like why are you cutting it? Like, you know what I mean? You're like thinking to yourself that almost every community must say, we don't have enough housing. I know that I've heard it throughout the state.
Oh yeah, right now that's like, it's one of the hot topics. You know what you've brought up to me, what are the two hottest topics there is, and that is housing and childcare.
Yeah.
And those are vital. Like those are the basis of living like in a civilized society right now. Right. You need those two things to make everything else work. You need places for people to live that they can afford. And if people are going to be productive members in our workforce, we need good childcare solutions.
Right. So when you're at that federal level representing us, and when I say us, meaning all the communities that you represent, and that is a common theme amongst them, you'd think you would move and vote towards things that supported more of that versus either cut or stay the same. It's like you can't stay the same. You've got more needs. So I'm just telling you, it's these levels of where people are so removed from the situation though that do represent us, that they're so removed they don't, how long do they spend in the community to even know what the needs are? I find them to be less and less accessible. I'm just gonna say my U.S. rep has a meeting for 1 hour in the middle of the day as a town hall 50 miles from where I work most of the time. Because if he has it closer to where I work and where most people work and live, he gets the place is packed. So I'm just going to tell you that it's a trend I've seen, and I'm not saying he isn't trying to represent all places of the district. And the district, by the way, my daughter who lives near Portage, will say, is still in the same district as myself, who lives in Foxcroft. We're in the same U.S. representative district. That does not seem right. It doesn't seem right to have a district that runs all the way to Portage as a district.
To Fox Crossing.
To north, almost up to Appleton. That seems like a weird district. Anyway, we don't have to get into district. Oh, let's not get it. Well, districting is that. Maybe that would be my second thing. No, I'm just kidding. Let's redistrict. I mean, I just think, no, I'm just kidding. I wasn't going to bring that up as a point, but I do think I ran for assembly many moons ago when my kids were like, 4 and 6 or something like that. I mean, so I want to tell you that at that time, the maps weren't great, but or at least the district I ran for was probably, the diversity of the potential of it being represented by maybe changing who it could be represented by was very minute. However, I do want to say that like things that happened after that, because I watched it after that, was like, what, like, oh, the way it was redistricted was like, oh, so we're going to guarantee this many spots here and this many spots on this side of the aisle. And then it just felt like it was redistricted in a way not for the benefit of the communities and the people. Again, like, and it was done, it gets done. It should never be done by people invested in a political party that are going to decide that. It should always be independent. And can it be fully independent? Anything at this point? I'm not sure. But, there's something to be said for...
Well, it should just be for the good of the people.
Yeah.
And the people should really get the opportunity to maintain, like, their say in these things. Like, the design is not to maintain power.
Right.
The design should be to serve people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's all government's supposed to do in the first place. It's
Absolutely.
just supposed to serve the people that, and
right?
Wait, let me rephrase that. All the people.
Right.
Not just the people you want to serve.
Right.
But all the people.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Well,
I think it's an important issue, and I think, we might get to something later, but deep in my heart, I believe strongly around that issue. So,
Okay. Well, what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a small commercial break.
Did you know there are children in the Fox Valley in need of hearing aids, but their parents struggle to provide them because of lack of insurance or high copays? I am Juliette Sturkins, audiologist and board member of Here in the Fox Cities, and proud that this small local nonprofit organization has helped fund hearing aids for some 30 kids. Your donation would help more children hear. Visit hereinthefoxcities.org to learn more and to see their smiles. Every child deserves to hear.
Okay, we're back. And we are jumping into what is my favorite. I'm officially saying it now at the 100th episode, my new favorite segment of the Kosh, and that is story time. And this is our opportunity for our guests to share a story with us about anything. Doesn't have to be about anything specific or anything about topic or anything like that. We're just looking for a great story. So Susan, what do you have for us?
Oh my gosh. What a tough question for someone who likes to talk a lot and tell a lot of stories. Pick one.
Oh no, you don't have to. Look, you can pick more than one. We're not like that. We've had people tell two.
Yeah. Well, I like to share this story. I've shared it. I had to share it within the last 5 years because the person that I experienced this story with passed away from ALS, and so I shared it at her memorial. But so I want to share the story. I had the privilege of in my life having the travel bug early on. I always liked going with my parents we went to Weslaco, Texas to see my grandparents, and then we'd go over the border and go shopping. We would go to just different places. I always loved traveling. And so I got that travel bug. So when I was in my 20s, and I was working, I was in Madison and working a job, my friend and I decided we're going to take a bus from Madison, Wisconsin, and we're going to travel all the way down to Tierra del Fuego, the end of South America. That was the original plan. Okay.
That's an option?
Okay, so there might have been a few things that we hadn't researched or realized when we said that. Because there is a point in Panama called the Darien Peninsula that the jungle, there's no road anymore. It's jungle and you can't pass through it. You have to get on a boat and go to Colombia. So you're right. We wouldn't have been able to do a bus all the way for sure. We would have had to get on a boat at some point. But it's good to think oh, maybe that could happen. So we loaded up our backpacks. So the idea was we saved up some money. She probably had more than I did, but this was in my mid 20s where I had careers, but I wasn't fully on a full career path. So I could do this stop, if you will, and take my sabbatical. So we went on a bus from Madison, Wisconsin to McAllen, Texas on the Greyhound. This is when you could buy the Greyhound ticket for $69 and go anywhere in the U.S.
Oh, I remember that.
Those days.
No, I do remember that.
Yeah. And that was an experience all of in itself, right? Riding the Greyhound bus. Because you had to learn the system so you stop at different places and then you got to be back in line at a certain time if you're going to get the spot you want on the bus. Otherwise, you're just filling in. And so when you first start, you don't realize that. And then by the third stop, you're oh, yeah, okay, make sure we're back in line. So anyway, we had several stops and we took it all the way down to McAllen, Texas. Then from McAllen, Texas, we took a bus we were visiting someone I knew in Monterrey, Mexico. And here was, the experience this was back in 96, 97, somewhere around there. So just to give you context, this is a while back. So we were taking the bus. I think we were the only two gringas on the bus, right? So the bus stops at the border. We are going into the border. The bus stops at the border, and they asked the two gringas to get off the bus because we had to go into the office to get the visa, or the travel visa or whatever we was. But I was no one else is getting off the bus. Like, it was kind of that weird experience of like, so how do you know where everyone else is going? And then we got off the bus. We got on the bus. We literally pulled into Mexico and like literally down 500 feet down the road, the bus stopped again because everyone had to take their luggage off for customs. So it was like, really? He made just the two of us stop to get it. But it was that experience of like, I never knew it could be like that. Like I had a lot of scratching on my head of how the system worked between Mexico and Texas then. Like how did they know? Maybe I was sleeping though, and maybe they checked everyone. Who knows? I don't really care, but it was just seemingly for me like, weird. So we got our travel visa. They let you in for 90 days or whatever it is. And we got our travel visa, and then we had everything checked, our luggage, and we got on our way and went to Monterrey, Mexico. And I'm going to tell you, we took buses throughout. We only made it to Guatemala City. We only made it to Guatemala on our travels, partly because we said we want to see all the things there are to see in Mexico, like not just pass through Mexico. We stopped at a lot of places in Mexico and got to learn Mexico. And Mexico is amazing. If you've never been there, there's so many amazing things to see and food to eat and drinks to have and just beautiful things that people should see. And I feel sad I'm going to be honest. I feel there's a sadness in my heart now of that people are probably more limited in their travels to Mexico. Like I think people hit the coastal towns where there's resorts,
right,
and kind of stay to the resort,
right,
and are probably told to stay to the resort, to be honest. But that makes me sad for a beautiful country, rich in culture with a ton of experiences, where there should be more of us traveling there and supporting it and whatnot. When we were there, we realized that people from Europe, we met a lot of European travelers that were also backpacking across Mexico, and that they had 6 weeks of vacation. And so that was like, we go to Mexico for a month or two, in our travels. And it was like, what? Wait, what? And so like I had to take a sabbatical. I had to like quit a job, to be able to travel like that. So anyway, I think to myself so many things of where the richness of those experiences. I get why sometimes kids take gap years when they can. Mm-hmm. Like travel when you can, and you can appreciate it, and it gives you the richness of life experience that goes on to inform, your future self of how you are, and go have those experiences. And I know that it's in it. I want to tell you, it's like not everyone can do that. I get that. I get the privilege of me. I never worried about whether I was going to be able to come back and get a different job. I didn't worry about that at that time in my life. But I want to say that like we did it on a shoestring. We paid, it wasn't extra. We stayed in $3 hotels, if that gives you any idea of like, sometimes every once in a while I hit a hotel where there was a hole in the middle of the bed. Every once in a while, it didn't happen very often. Most of those hotels were immaculate, right? But every once in a while you hit maybe we need to reevaluate this on the Lonely Planet book of maybe don't go to this one. But they probably hadn't updated in a while anyway. But for the most part, amazing people, amazing experiences, richness of culture. Went to the Monarch Butterfly Sanctuary, where I think to myself, when we do projects here, we should probably have groups of people that actually travel to it and see when we do a monarch, garden here or something like that. We should know where are these monarchs headed in this one forest in the middle of Michoacan that like we had to take a large truck up to get to it. And what an amazing area, what amazing journey for those monarch butterflies. And the fact that things are a little tenuous right now for those monarchs, that over time there's preservation on both ends is troublesome. So just things like that added, I can't even tell you what that added to my life in terms of appreciating things like that, of a journey, things that have gone on long term, of like saying, if the monarch can make it, maybe I can make it. Those times in life where you're just like, it just gave me, it just really has allowed me the opportunity to appreciate the richness of life, and gone on. I still appreciate it. I appreciate people, culture, food, all the things. I love to experience it as often as I can. I don't get enough opportunities, honestly, and I wish I had more. But I think those kind of, when you can have that, it gives you that like North Star later in life of like appreciating that and bringing that into your life versus being othering and saying, nah. So that's what I hope for people.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was one. I really didn't get into like the tenuous part of that trip was that in the Monarch Sanctuary, when we went to visit, we paid a guy they call them volquetas, or they're these large dump trucks. We paid him to bring us up and bring us back. And when we came back from seeing the Monarch Sanctuary, he wasn't there anymore. And we already paid him the money to bring us back down. So we were like, oh, so we had to pay a bus. We got back down. But my friend, she's feisty. She is very feisty, and she's a fighter. And so she was like, let's go find that guy to get our money back. And so this is her idea. I'm telling you, like, wait, how did I get roped into that? We told every single person. We found out he lived on the outskirts of town. We told every single person on our route out to his ranch on the outside skirts of town that we were going to see him. So they knew these two gringas in the middle of Mexico were on their path to go get this money, go get our money back, half of our money back, right? We did it. We walked all the way to that, guys. We got half our money back.
Oh, you actually did it?
We did.
Oh, my God.
We did it.
Yeah.
Like,
what?
I'm like I think to myself now, luckily I was in my, mid-20s or whatever it was, but like, I think to myself, what in the world was I thinking going along with that? I'd been like, it was only that, let it go. My friend, she's a fighter for, was a fighter for rights and just like said, I think the thing is that you don't want people going to areas and then feeling like they're also like a victim to,
right,
being ripped off.
Absolutely.
So I think it was kind of setting a standard too. It was making a greater point of which you want to make. But I think back now, like, oh, we probably shouldn't have done that. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous. But
wait, are you still friends with that person?
Well, so that's my friend that she's passed away from ALS. Oh, but I want to tell you that she is, her feistiness is like, she passed on a lot of feistiness to me, and over time, she was a researcher and a hard worker, and just an amazing person overall. She has she's written a few books, and they might be controversial in their title for some of the people here. No, like she wrote a book on, she studied a lot in the corporate law library in Madison and did a book it's called Gaveling Down the Rabbit Hole, How Free Trade Has Stolen Our Democracy. And it walks you through all the Supreme Court battles that have happened since the Singer Corporation back in the late 1800s of how they've fought through the constitutional fights about interstate commerce. And so, to be honest, Wisconsin used to have corporations that were chartered in our state. They were beholden to our laws that we made here, and now they're chartered in Delaware, and a lot of those laws have since been ruled unconstitutional because of interstate commerce. So what I want to say is that deep in my heart, I truly believe that, we get in these discussions about local control, but be cautious in all of those discussions, because sometimes they're masked in something else, where people sometimes want local control and sometimes they don't want local control. And you got to watch out make sure you don't trip in the fight because sometimes not in my backyard can mean not in my backyard when it's going to destroy my water and I no longer can live there, versus not in my backyard because we don't want those people.
Right.
So there's two different not in my backyards. Mm-hmm. And so this is the case with and we might get into this later in the discussion, but this is that case of where with democracy, you got to kind of stand with democracy, the good and the bad. If you're not on the side that ends up winning an election, you still stand for the process, even though it might not represent you ultimately for the next however many years. That you got to be in it, though. You got to be in it, because the reality is that it's the bedrock of what we stand on. And so she gave me that North Star, and it's I feel like she really thought that her book was gonna be a bestseller, New York bestseller, and it's a lot to take in. I'm just telling you, it's a little dry for most people's read, and I can get you a copy, but I'm going to tell you that I think passing on what in the core she stood for by writing that book is in my core now, and that's why I have so much fight in me, because of she's part of that.
I just appreciate that she wrote a book, because that's kind of like a thing that always dances in my head. I just think there's a great amount of discipline and will and grit to actually write a book.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. So, and a well-researched, insightful one on top of that, right?
Yeah. I'm just trying to make a coloring book.
Right. I mean, I'm with you. I'm like, every once in a while you go down that path, like, could I? And then I'm like, that seems like, after I've gone through my master's, and MPA, like all that citation stuff, it takes a little away from me every time. A little bit of me fades away every time I have to think about citations.
I know about that life.
Yeah.
I know about that life.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, it's like, I get it, but also it's a little bit of the inner core of me that's not that person. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's the time of the show. Every single time. Love it. Every single
It is very
time.
dramatic.
It is time for the topic of the week. This is our opportunity. Our guest picks the topic of the week 99.9% of the time. And this week will be no different. So, Susan.
Yeah.
What's our topic of the week?
I might already teed it up.
Right? I felt like I kind of know where you were going with it, and I feel like we might have started jumping in.
Yeah.
So now we're just going to make it official.
Yeah. So I've really been challenged by reading about what's happening with the Supreme Court election and the attempts by Robin Vos to overturn that election based on something that happened during the campaign. And I feel like if that were the case, so like, I feel like too, like the judiciary being elected is something I didn't set up, but feel like there's part of me that's a little conflicted about it, to be honest. Because again, we'll go back to implicit bias. We all have it, right? Mm-hmm. But how much does it play into decision making
in our legal system?
Exactly.
Yes.
So, it's there though. Like, let's not dance around and say, no one's biased.
It's where any place that holds humans, because it's part of the human condition.
Absolutely. So to now try to overturn this in a way that, if you think about this, if you set that precedent, though, that precedent it's arguably could go on either political side, right? And the problem with it is that it's suddenly you are saying, we as voters, you don't get to make the decision anymore ultimately.
Yep.
That's a big jump.
Yep.
That's a big jump.
That is basically what it's saying.
Yeah.
It's saying, you can vote, but if we don't like what you vote for, we're going to actually take the steps to disband
Right.
what the vote was, what the
Right.
people wanted.
Right. So like that, oh my goodness, in terms of precedent, I'm just thinking the other things that would go after that of like where, we've already had a lot of the questioning of elections. And I think that there is, after having worked in a county and like knowing the clerk's process and all of the pieces, the folks that, again, it's that fraud issue of where it's put forth as this large mass going to change an election issue, and it comes down to a handful of people. And so as that happens, it creates this feeling of people's mistrust in a system that really is based in it's dotting the I's and crossing the T. It's a system that really has a lot of checks and balances to it, as I've seen it. So I think that there's a few cases that might come up and be questioned, but for the most part, elections have this ability. Other states have figured out how to make it much more accessible than our state has, and do it in a way that continues the integrity of the election. So to say that we can't do that, to say that there can't be ways to vote that really support that, ultimately to me is like, what's going on? But ultimately, this particular move by this leader is a step where I think everyone that's in office, regardless of what political party they're in, should stand up and say, no, not on our watch, not in our, because this is the step that shouldn't be allowed. And public administration, I'm going to be honest, now that I've studied more about it, I have a lot of issue with the accessibility of the public and public meeting. And I know there are people that have worked their entire lives trying to make sure, like sunshine laws, things like that, like work their entire lives to make sure that we keep that public part of public administration open and open meeting laws and all of that. But I think we all know that there's power plays that happen in the back room that we don't know about with people that are elected that, we've seen it.
Well, that's actually one of the things that they're talking about with the Supreme Court thing right now is like that there's this commission that was created and is publicly funded. So therefore, that should be open. That should be required to meet the requirements of public records.
Absolutely.
So it should be open. What they're talking about, people should be able to attend, people should be able to view it, whatever it is, because it's under it. Everything about it fits under that umbrella. And I forgot what just happened because I think it just went to court.
So, yeah, I think
there was a decision made.
A lawyer filed something against it.
Yeah, somebody filed something against it, but I think it actually didn't pass. I think it failed.
I think you're right.
But to me, it made sense because to me, if it falls under the directive of if this commission to figure out how to, the term is slipping me, but basically to
like oversight of sorts.
No. What's going on with the president right now?
Oh, yeah. Impeach, like an impeachment.
Yeah. Basically, if they're trying to impeach this Wisconsin Supreme Court justice, that and is being paid for with taxpayer dollars, that should be open.
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to get notes from it. We should be able to do all the things. Yeah. How does that get
right?
How does that get privatized? No. How does that get hidden? How does that,
Yeah. Sometimes when we set up processes, they're only good as those that enforce them. Sometimes, meaning that that you need a lot of public eyes on a lot of different pieces, or else it goes unchecked and then sometimes gains momentum or whatever it is,
Absolutely.
My friend made that point a lot with regulatory agencies. When you're regulating someone and then the company takes you to Hawaii for a week to kind of chat about that regulation, how do you think that fares in terms of when you come back and you're regulating them, right?
That doesn't hit the same, huh?
Yeah. Right. I think that recently there was a case at a much higher level with someone elected official similar to that of what they got in kickback. But anyway, it's those
Yes,
things.
I believe. Yes, I believe I know what you're referencing.
Okay, yeah.
Might be in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, exactly. So, the reality is that, there's, I don't know if you remember the days of Feingold. It wasn't that long ago, right? But he wouldn't even take a cup of coffee, right? It was and I can't accept anything, right?
Yes.
And there's a reason for that.
Absolutely.
There's a reason for that because it very quickly clouds the way in which, you're no longer listening to the public.
Well,
generally.
Really, you just don't want you don't want the perception that there's any kind of misgivings happening. Right. You just don't want that. So you just, under no circumstance, do you just want to accept anything, even a lunch, even a bag of chips, even a piece of pizza. You're just I'll just pay for it.
Yeah.
Because, not that we get that there's a good gesture and maybe you appreciate the way that we're running things. But for the sake of just being impartial and being nonpartisan,
right,
particularly at a local government level,
mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna go on and I'll pay for that coffee. I'll pay for that pizza. I'll pay for, this is something I'm getting an opportunity to see firsthand. And I do think it's just something. Even though most of these offers are just really good natured community kind of deals,
mm-hmm.
But just for the integrity.
Yeah.
It's important
to
maintain distance in those circumstances.
Absolutely. So I think that's that piece of, again, going back to that public administration training of getting the insights of how things have changed and whatnot. It's just really hold that, accountability is that piece where people want it on both ends, but you can't ask other people for it and not have it yourself. It's the whole, I don't know. It's just so many pieces for me of where we just need to be steadfast in this is what democracy looks like. And we're going to withhold those standards. And so I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm going to wait really I'm going to be watching closely what happens with this.
Is there any last things you would like to say about your topic?
Yeah, I just, again, just a reminder to people that, the whole idea is us, the participation of the public. So when we say for the people, by the people, it's it really is people being a part of it. And I get it that it is dry. Trust me, I've been to enough, small municipal meetings that they're not there. It's not showtime, right? I mean, it's a little on the drier side, but when we don't pay attention, when we don't watch, when we don't participate, it's easy to go the other way. No one's watching, no one's participating. Let's just XYZ, and it happens quickly and in our communities. So if we want to see our communities, embrace more of what we feel like communities should embrace, we have to be a part of it, as painful sometimes as it may be. But, and I give kudos to everyone who does it, because I'm telling you, it takes probably just a little bit of their being in that place sometimes. But I'm so thankful they're there.
Get engaged. That's what I'm going to say.
Absolutely.
And what I've learned is that, particularly at the local government level, when you show up, people actually listen, because there's not necessarily always a group of individuals that show up.
Absolutely.
So when people do show up, there's those representatives, whoever they are, tend to really listen, because when people show up, they know it is important at that level. And so do not hesitate to get involved.
Yeah. It.
All right. Well, we wrapped that up.
Yeah.
All right. Now it is time for us to start wrapping up this episode. Gosh, listeners, thank you. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us your minds and ears. Thank you for being here at the 100th episode of the Kosh. This means absolutely the world to me. And during this journey, I hope that you have gotten many amazing things out of it, as well as getting to know your neighbors and the people in our community and the talents that we have and the resources we have and the amazing local businesses that we have. You know, this is for the people. The Kosh is for the people. That was always what our mission was. And at 100 episodes, it's still our mission, and it still means a lot to us that we continue on this journey. What I want to say is please know we are a work in progress. We will always be a work in progress. Take time. Let us know how we're doing. Email us at askthekosh@gmail.com. Once again, that is askthekosh@gmail.com. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you want to be a guest or recommend a guest. We are all about that. It's a great platform to get things out that you may want to do. My last request goes out there to our listeners to say, hey, if you haven't already, take time to subscribe to this podcast. Subscribe and leave a review if you can. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, please do that. What it does is it helps to increase our analytics. And the better our analytics is, the more people get to learn about this amazing podcast called The Kosh. And there's power in that. I can't tell you. Hopefully one day I'll be able to do an episode where I can tell you all the amazing community connections that have been made through the Kosh. People who didn't know about resources or know about each other, and then they connected, and things are happening in our community. You actually might be surprised at some of the things happening within our community started from conversations from the Kosh. So, be proud that you're part of this conversation, and be proud of the things that it is producing, because we care. All right. So now on to what I will now reframe as my second favorite part of the show. It is shout out time. So Susan, this is your opportunity. Who you going to shout out?
Yeah. Well, I had thought about maybe someone originally I was going to shout out to the farms and farm workers, because it's that time of year, right? It's harvest time.
Oh yeah.
And I think there's our unsung heroes are the folks that pick the fruits, if you will, the fruits and the veggies and all the things. Because if any of you have done that work, right, picking beans, right? I did that as a young child. That was hard work, like crouching down, getting in there, getting the stuff. So I want to say, that doesn't just arrive on your plate. Like, there's a whole process, and there's a lot of people involved in that. And we need to make sure that those people can continue to do those types of positions, be healthy. And there's a whole way to support them even more and support local farms. So that's my first shout out. But I also want to circle back to that elected officials and the folks that go to meetings and are involved. Shout out, because I do recognize the energy and the commitment that a lot of that takes. And I, to myself, say, oh my gosh, how some days, how do they do that and balance their life? Because then that doesn't allow me to watch a baking show. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. No, I'm just saying, I definitely wouldn't see as many baking shows, that's for sure. But I wanted to say, I give them props for all of that work, because I think it is a lot of work, but it makes our community, what it is, because we have those folks there.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. This week's shout outs from me. I want to send a shout out to the Grand here in Oshkosh and its team of workers and volunteers. I went last night for a show called, it was a group called Uptown. And let me just tell you, it was fabulous. It was just a fabulous experience. There was this young lady named Betty who they called up on stage. Let me tell you, Betty had a good time. She was no joke. No. Betty thought it was Magic Mike. Betty had a good time. So anyway, it was highly entertaining, and I love that venue. Like, it was just fun, and it's special for the Kosh here, and we're lucky to have a venue like that. I want to send a special shout out to Tri-County Dental. Sandy Drexler and Lisa Hens, got to connect with them. I do another podcast called Appleton Engaged, and they were here this week, and that's just an amazing resource. So if you don't know, and let's just say if you have some financial challenges and you got some things going on dentally, there's a resource out there, and you should look into that. And once again, that is called Tri-County Dental. Want to send a special shout out to Maria Van Latten from the PAC, also a person who came and did Appleton Engage this week. First of all, always much shout out to the PAC. Like, I've gotten my opportunity to go there for a couple of different shows, and like, they also have this fantastic team, and the experience is always just wonderful. And there's a lot of intentionality that goes on behind the quality of the shows, and to make sure that they have things that's representative of everyone in the community, and the efforts to put forth in the engagement piece. So just want to get that recognized. Big shout out to Kim Walters at CISA 6. You know what's up. CISA 6 has this program, this virtual program, where you can get trained on some like bias training, diversity training, and all this stuff. And it's wild. So I actually got an opportunity to do a test segment of it, and woo, it was real.
Wow.
Like, that AI was for real. So I would say if anyone needs some training for their organization, this might be an option. Reach out to the Kosh, and I can put you in connection with that. I want to send a special shout out to Chaddell Lee. He's a young man out here who started a business. He picks up discarded things and junk and things that people want to get rid of out of their homes. He's out here hustling, and I love a young man. Let me rephrase that. I love a young person who's an entrepreneur trying to do great things. I appreciate the work you putting in out here, man, for real. And I want to send a shout out to Darren Higgins. Met this gentleman, and like, I'm just going to say, I hear you, my brother. I hear you. And to People of Progression out of Appleton, I got an opportunity to sit down with them, and they always grind, and they just do amazing things for our community. And I do believe there's some things in the future that are going to be really positive. I don't want to put it out there ahead of time, but just know, don't be surprised at the surprise. That's how that get down.
Nice.
Okay, so there's one thing left to do before this episode is over, Susan. And what that is you get 3 choices. And those 3 choices are, you can A, give us some words of wisdom, parting words of wisdom, or B, you can tell us, what would yourself today tell your 12-year-old self? Or you can do option C, both. All of the above. I know. That's
awesome.
That's
awesome. I love 3 choices. Sometimes I like 12, or sometimes I like 1. It depends on the time. But yeah, I like it. Parting words of wisdom. That's like, that feels heavy, right? Like, okay, and really, if I was talking to my 12-year-old self, I think I worried way too much for so many years of my life about what other people thought of me, or just generally what people thought about me or around me or whatever, and gave them too much, if you want to say, power of things that they said. I'm a big girl, and trust me, I've had my share of commentary made in my direction around my size, and I've been able to get a point in my life where I get to be a point of where it doesn't, I'm deciding my health, I'm deciding my future and what I need for me, and it's not the same as what anyone else needs for them, and so people don't need to worry about it for me, and don't need to make commentary about it. And I want to say that for my 12-year-old self, I would be like, hey, guess what? Sometime in the future, there's going to be a time when people appreciate large people and are attracted to them, and it's going to be okay. Because, when you're 12, you just don't think that. You think like, oh my gosh, like, I'm never going to find anyone, and I'm going to, and all of the things that go with that time in your life of not feeling very much self-confidence. So I just want to say to myself, like, it's going to come, but you're just going to have to give yourself time and life experience. So my words of wisdom are this. You are enough. I love that. I love you are enough, because we all have different things that bring us together as a whole person, and you're enough. And like, really just keep on keeping on and reach out to those that support your enoughness. And so that's what I want to tell. Those are my words of wisdom, and you do belong, and there's no such thing as those people. We're all those people. And so let's keep working together to realize that people are enough, and we can come together as communities together.
That was fabulous.
All right.
Yeah.
You got me, John. I wrote him a lot of, like, I thought it was going to be a lot more. Sorry.
No. The Kosh.